Feeling too much is not about emotion, it is about processing. People often describe themselves as feeling too much. But this description can be misleading. The experience is not always about having more emotions, it is about how the brain processes information that leads to emotion. Emotion is not a separate system. It is the result of perception, interpretation, and internal meaning making. Some brains simplify incoming signals, they filter aggressively, they reduce ambiguity, they close interpretation quickly. Other brains operate differently. They allow signals to remain open, they preserve detail, they delay conclusions. This creates a different internal environment. The person is not simply feeling more, they are processing more for longer and with greater depth, and that changes everything. When the brain sees more, it feels more. Every moment contains far more information than we consciously notice. Micro expressions, tone shifts, timing differences, subtle inconsistencies. Most of this is filtered out automatically, but in some systems, more of this information is retained. The brain detects patterns earlier. It notices deviations faster. It registers emotional signals that others may not perceive at all. This creates an expanded version of reality. A conversation is no longer just words. It becomes tone, intention, hesitation, and implication, and each of these elements contributes to emotional output. Emotion increases not because the event is larger, but because the perceived data set is larger. Why the system does not turn off. For many people, emotional states follow events. Something happens, the brain reacts, the feeling rises and falls. But in systems that process deeply, the event is not the endpoint. It is the starting point. The brain continues working. It revisits the experience. It reorganizes details. It tests different interpretations. This process is not optional. It is how the system creates understanding. As long as the brain is still processing, the emotional state remains active. The feeling is not stuck. The system is still working. The expansion of meaning. One of the most important differences is how meaning expands. An event does not remain isolated, it connects to past experiences, to learned patterns, to possible futures. The brain builds a network. A small moment becomes a node inside that network. And once activated, the network spreads. This creates amplification, not because the original event is intense, but because it activates multiple layers of meaning at once. The experience becomes wider than the moment itself. Emotional sensitivity is low threshold detection. Sensitivity is often misunderstood. It is not exaggeration, it is threshold. A lower threshold means the system activates earlier. Where one brain requires strong signals, another reacts to subtle ones. This creates early detection. But early detection means earlier activation. The system begins processing before events fully unfold. This increases responsiveness, but it also increases duration. Because the system started earlier, it also runs longer.
Subscribe and like!
Empathy as internal simulation. Empathy is not only understanding, it is simulation. The brain recreates external emotional states internally. It mirrors them. For some people, this simulation is stronger. The boundary between internal and external becomes less defined. This creates a shared system. Other people's emotions are not just observed, they are partially experienced. This increases connection, but it also increases load. The system is no longer processing a single emotional stream, it is processing multiple. The role of uncertainty. Uncertainty keeps the system active. The brain is designed to resolve ambiguity. When something is unclear, it continues searching for meaning, for explanation, for structure. In high sensitivity systems, this search is extended. The brain does not close quickly. It keeps multiple interpretations open. Each interpretation carries emotional weight, and as long as the system remains open, the emotional state continues. The intensity is not driven by certainty. It is sustained by unresolved meaning. The role of uncertainty. Uncertainty keeps the system active. The brain is designed to resolve ambiguity. When something is unclear, it continues searching for meaning, for explanation, for structure. In high sensitivity systems, this search is extended. The brain does not close quickly. It keeps multiple interpretations open. Each interpretation carries emotional weight, and as long as the system remains open, the emotional state continues. The intensity is not driven by certainty. It is sustained by unresolved meaning. The delay between awareness and reaction. In sensitive systems, processing often begins before conscious awareness. The brain detects patterns rapidly. It activates responses based on partial information. By the time awareness appears, the system is already engaged. This creates a delay. The reaction feels automatic because it started before conscious thought. This is why control can feel inconsistent, not because control is absent, but because awareness arrives after activation. Depth and complexity are the same system. The same system that creates intensity also creates depth. It detects patterns others may miss. It connects ideas across time. It builds complex internal models. This is not an additional feature. It is the result of processing at higher resolution. Nothing extra is added. The system simply goes further. The difference between overreaction and overconnection. From the outside, strong emotional responses may appear disproportionate, but the external view only includes visible input. The internal system includes processed input. When many connections activate at once, the response reflects the network, not the trigger. This is not overreaction, it is overconnection. The reaction is proportional to the internal network size. The structural nature of the experience. This experience is not random. It follows a structure. High input, extended processing, expanded meaning, delayed resolution. Each step builds on the previous one. The result is a system that is more aware, more connected, more active at all times. People who feel too much are not experiencing excess emotion. They are experiencing expanded perception and extended processing. More signals enter the system. More meaning is constructed. More time is required to integrate experience. The weight comes from volume, not from weakness. The system is not broken. It is less filtered. And when filters are reduced, reality becomes more detailed, more complex, more intense, all at once. This is not a failure of control. It is a different structure of experience, one that trades simplicity for depth, and depth always carries weight.